ever happen in this country again, but without knowledge.
The financial shock, which began in 1991 in Jamaica, ballooned unchecked over the next 5 years until it exploded with a catastrophic bang in 1996. The explosion left shrapnel scattered over the financial landscape, which still impacted on the economy so many years later. Sister Valerie Dixon is a survivor of that shock that the observer talk about, a survivor of the government's response to the financial crisis of the 1990s. And she has, as we have said, written her book, Too Black to Succeed, the FinSAC Experience, on the phone lines. Lady President of the UNIA Kingston chapter, educator, author, entrepreneur, and grandmother. My sister Valerie Dixon,
So what I want to bring out this morning is that a lot of people do not understand where this thing came from. And I want to just read a little from an appendix that was written in the Observer some time ago. It says, when Omar Davis, then PNP finance minister in the 1990s, began the process of dismantling the Central National Bank, it was done immediately after the Don Crawford-run entity had bought a significant sum of US dollars at a few dollars more than the price that the official exchange rate indicated. The bank did nothing which other banks were not doing in a time when an inept PNP government was struggling with managing a market economy which it knew little or nothing about. What the sale of those dollars did was reveal that the very same finance ministry was covertly, that means underground, dispatching agents with huge stacks of cash in the trunks of their cars to buy US dollars at prices above the official exchange rate. The money was stolen eventually. With blood rushing to its head, when this action was revealed, an embarrassed PNP government set about withdrawing public funds from the Central National Bank, making it publicly known. And in the process, it started or triggered a run on the bank, which was seemingly designed to end its life. That, however, is a sad history for the most progressive bank existing in Jamaica at that time. So if you withdraw money from the most progressive bank at the time, what do you think is bound to happen? It is going to trigger what is known as a domino effect. There's going to be a run or a rush on the bank for people trying to get out their monies. And we do not understand, most of us, what the effect or the repercussions or the consequences of such a run on a bank would actually do. Because if you affect one thing over here, it is going to affect other things over there.
You and your husband, you were in the construction industry. Talk to us about that.
Yes. And I think the whole world understands that when you're in the construction industry, unfortunately, you have to be the one who is, well, it wouldn't be wise for you to capitalize that job you have out of your own pocket. So you are dependent on the banking system to finance you upfront, because in construction, you have to put down the building, and as you go along, you can then certify that the work is done so you can get paid from the client. But in the meantime, you have your expenses such as salaries and wages, you have your utility bills, you have your suppliers, you have everybody to pay until you get paid. So when your bank collapses, which was Workers' Bank, and you are now faced with not being able to get funding, what do you think is going to happen? Your creditors are going to be down on you. In other words, everything now comes crashing down on you. and your only fault or crime was to go and borrow money that you must use because nobody's going to really, as I said, finance people's houses, buildings, shopping malls, whatever, out of their own pockets unless you're one of those types. But anyway, let me just quickly go on. So you are faced with Hobson's choice, which is no choice at all. You have to give collateral in order to secure these loans. And by collateral, we mean you have got to mortgage something or give up something for the bank to say, you want $1 million? Bring 40,000 acres worth of property come. So the bank holds on to that. Sooner or later, with your being stymied or held at almost gunpoint, you are not able to get financing. You're not able to get payment from your clients. So you have to now go and seek every possible means. And one of them is to put your house up for mortgage. Or better yet, as collateral again. I will just read quickly here what another one of the appendix said. It said, the tragic irony is that many of those producers and manufacturers in Jamaica, trusting that their government was looking after their interests, had borrowed, sometimes pledging their homes to invest in state-of-the-art equipment to improve their efficiency, only to be crushed by the high cost of servicing the debt, that is high interest rates, which are generally harmful. Many sought out new export markets to increase their sales, but lost them as their competitiveness vanished through government's exchange rate policies. Many strengthened their marketing only to be overwhelmed by the advantages given to imported competition by the government's unwise, liberalized trade policies. And I'll stop there for a moment. Every time it is the foreigners who get the edge or the advantage over local producers and local manufacturers who are the homegrown variety. In the FinSac debacle, we were in business for over 20 years. Another company was in business for over 50 years. Another company founded by our national hero, George Gordon, was over 100 years old. And again, we ask the question, the government contented itself to believe that companies which had been conducting business successfully for decades were suddenly struck en masse with ineptitude, stupidity, and amnesia as to how to properly run a business.
Explain to us, Val, what do the government do exactly? Because we only talk about the FinSac debacle. What exactly are we talking about?
Okay. You went to your bed last night and interest rate, let's say for argument's sake, is at 30%. You wake up this morning and you see a headline in the newspaper that says, government to increase interest rate to 64%. Please tell me which business would be able to fill that gap between paying interest rate at 30% and suddenly jump with no notice to paying interest rate at 60 and probably more. Overdraft interest rate went up overnight to 120%.
And the impact of that action on businesses was what you are describing.
That is exactly what I'm describing. So how is it that these people who are running business for over all these decades suddenly overnight become bad debtors? Do you see the point I'm making there?
Yes, as a matter of fact,
we were villainized.
Yes.
We were hounded down like common criminals. And we had to watch our businesses go up in smoke. While foreign investors came in, they got tax breaks, they got tax holidays, and we were what? Flung aside and discarded as rubbish. We were called bad debtors.
As a matter of fact, for those who have a copy of the book, you'll see that the Appendix F, Anatomy of the FinSAC Debtor, which was published in the Sunday Gleaner 2011, July 10 by Claude Clark, guest columnist, starts out by saying, and I don't know if you have that, you can read that for us, Val, where he says part of the fallout from the FinSAC folly has been the summary dismissal of the thousands of productive Jamaican business persons as bad debtors. And this is what you're saying.
Yes, that after more than a century of successful Jamaican businesses, the 1990s ushered in a period in which the positive relationship between productive entrepreneurs and their financial partners or banks came to a crashing halt. Thousands of healthy Jamaican businesses, some of which had grown to become regional and world beaters, were disdainfully discarded by our national economic stewards as bad debtors. I am a teacher. And I remembered my husband coming in one evening looking very dejected and saying,
facilitating global connection and improving the entire travel experience for both visitors and locals. Furthermore, Jamaica is developing its infrastructure for purposes other than aviation. The construction of highways and road networks, such as the North-South Highway, has been essential to boosting trade and logistics, facilitating economic connectivity between key cities and enhancing transportation throughout the island. The restoration of famous locations like Kingston's waterfront is another example of how expenditures in the tourism industry support both cultural tourism and economic growth. These massive initiatives, which are intended to accelerate economic growth, generate employment opportunities, and establish Jamaica as a top travel and investment destination, represent the nation's dedication to sustainable development. 10. Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Program. A major endeavor in Jamaican infrastructure development, the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Program seeks to improve connectivity and accessibility throughout a noteworthy 165-kilometer area. The $11.5 billion multi-phase project aims to create a stronger road network and update the current infrastructure in order to solve long-standing transportation issues. The first phases aim to improve connection between May Pen and Port Antonio by building a contemporary